Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome to Chalk Talk. It is Kim Davis. Welcome to February. Today is February the 1st of 2022. So whatever you didn't get done in January, it's okay. You got a whole new month to start over and get it done now. Welcome to Chalk Talk. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I am super glad that you have joined me for today's show. Now, remember to share the broadcast. Share it in your groups, share it in your stories, on your homepage, wherever you happen to watch this show. I'm asking that you share this broadcast so that we can continue to grow the tribe. I'm excited about today's show. We've got some fun stuff happening. If you happen to see any of the teasers and updates about it, we're going to talk a little bit of rugby. I know, right? There is a Houston rugby team, so we've got a special guest we're gonna spend a few minutes talking with him. I'm going to bring you that interview in just a few moments, but definitely rugby is something that you might want to give some thought to. If you have never been to a rugby match and you're in the Houston area, you ought to check out the Sabercats. And when you see this interview that's coming up, you're going to find out why. Of course, there's a lot of other things happening in the world of sports. Tom Brady has officially retired. We know who's going to the Super Bowl. The Houston Texans coaching search carousel continues to spin around. There's so much to talk about. And there's the Houston Rockets. A fun game last night at Toyota Center. Another loss for the Rockets. But if you really are a fan of the sport and and the kind of talent that this team has and what Coach Silas is doing with this young squad, you should be excited and check them out. And what I'm really excited about is that Brandon Scott, he's been here before, B Scott of the B Block Podcast and the Sports Radio 610, is going to join me so we can talk about all that stuff together. Many of you had such great things to say when Brandon joined me last time. He was kind enough to come back. Okay, so what if I bribe him with Kimmy treats for he and his wife? Nevertheless, he will join us today as well. But first, I want to let you see the interview that I did on yesterday. And I'm just going to call him by his first name, Harry. I tried to practice it, as you'll see in this clip, but welcome to Chalk Talk, and let's check out a little something about rugby and the Houston Sabercats. A special guest today. You never hear me say this, but a rugby player. How about that? Welcome, Gerrie Labuschange, almost, right?
Yeah, almost right.
Almost.
Yeah,
so we're just gonna go with Harry. We're gonna go with Harry. So, welcome, and I'm excited to talk to you because I've only seen rugby on television. Okay, and so a lot of people that follow my show have probably only seen it on television. So today I want to just give them a little bit of sense of when they come out, because they're gonna come out to support the Sabercats, what they can expect. All right. Okay. So what is it about rugby that you think is exciting for fans who've never been to a match?
Well, first of all, just thank you for me being on here and representing the Sabercats. We're so excited this year. Then talking about rugby, rugby is such an exciting sport. So in football, there's a defensive team and an attacking team and special teams. When it comes to rugby, basically everybody does everything except the forwards doesn't kick and the backs does. But basically everybody defend, attack, such an exciting sport. It's on and it's fire. I'm so excited. Yeah.
I know that you were the Sabercats brought you to Houston at the end of December. You're from South Africa and you are a winger, but you do more, right?
Yes. So I'm from South Africa. I've played all over around the world. I've played in Japan as well for 3 years. But I'm a fullback winger. I'm a utility back. I can basically play everything in the back line except scrum half. I'm a bit tall. I'm 6'4.5", I think. So yeah, I'm a backline player and I can just throw the ball around. I love just having the ball and attacking. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm a fullback and a winger. Yeah.
Okay. So you took a little bit of time off because of injury and you thought about maybe retiring, but you've come back. So I'm guessing that means you're all good and healthy.
Yes, I took, I had a bad concussion, in 2020, 2020, and I decided to take a little bit of break off rugby, just to find myself again. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can get lost as a sportsman. So I found myself again, and when I got this opportunity, I'm so blessed to have this opportunity, and I'm so excited to be here. I love Houston, Texas. I love the Sabercats, and yeah, I'm just excited to be here. Took a bit of time off rugby, but now I'm back and I'm ready to go.
So is this your first time living, if you will, in the US, or have you been here before?
This is my first time living in the US.
Ah.
Being to the US, I've never been to the US. This is my first time here, and I just love it. Like as long as I've been here, I've only been here like a week and a bit, but like, I do love it.
Okay, so I won't tell anybody with the Sabercats, but what do you think about the field and the stadium? I'm told it's the first like official rugby stadium in the US. So how'd they do?
It's amazing. Like I'll tell you what, our facilities is amazing. We have top class facilities. We want to be a top class team, and that's why we needed top class facilities, top class field, top class stadium, and top class supporters. We want everybody to come out. We want to be the best. We want to be the best team in the world. So that's why we're here for.
So the season opens this weekend. You guys play host to Los Angeles. So
Yes.
here's a few things. I had to do a little bit of research because I'm telling you, haven't been to a rugby match, but I want to be ready
That's
for
all
it.
right.
So when you talk about scoring, I just have to ask, why do they call it a try?
So back in the old days, when you used to like in football, you just have to run past the goal line, right? And then it's a touchdown. But in rugby, you have to put it down. And in the olden days, like back when it started, it was 3 points for a try to score the try. But as time went on, like it became 5 points. So now when you score a try, it's 5 points now. But back in the old days, it was 3 points. That's why they call it a try. But now they just stuck with that try. Yeah.
So the try is 5 points.
Yes.
Conversion, which is afterward, is kind of like the extra point in what we know as
Yes.
American football. That's
100%.
points.
Yes. So in American football, you get 6 points for a touchdown and then 1 point for the kick.
Right.
In rugby, you get 5 points for the try, and then for the conversion, you get 2 points. But if you get a penalty and you go for post, you can make 3 points. So a penalty would be like someone like being offside, or so in rugby, you're not allowed to throw the ball forward. Like there's like it's so much different, but when you get a penalty and you kick to post, you get 3 points. So the scoring is like 5 points for a try, 2 points for a conversion, and if a penalty and you kick it over the post, it's 3 points. Yeah.
Okay. And then the drop goal, is that another? That's another thing for 3 points,
Yes.
right?
Yes. You can also drop goal. If you drop goal, so the ball has to touch the ground and then kick it, and then
Okay.
if it goes over, it's 3 points. Yeah. And that will be in
There's
play.
four
Like
ways.
yeah.
Okay.
There's 4 ways of making points. Yeah.
So I don't know if you're aware of this, Harry, but I know that in some schools around the Houston area, they have rugby teams. I have a few friends whose kids played rugby. So I shouldn't say I haven't been to see rugby. I've seen it like in high school. I haven't been to professional because I have seen it. So how is it? Have you noticed it is growing? Are you excited about the fact that people are getting introduced to the sport?
I'm so excited. Like as I played it ever since I was even younger. Like I played with my brothers. My brothers are way older than me, so I played like ever since I was 3 years old. But like when I started playing like competition, we started at 5 in South Africa, and we loved it. And to come to America, and it's such a new and developing sport in America that like I just love it. Like everybody wants to be here. Everybody's so nice. Like they want to learn. A couple of the boys already went to go help like some of the kids. Like I've just been here for a week now. I haven't had the chance to spread the knowledge yet, but I would love to do that as well. So excited about that. But yeah, it's so amazing. Like such a growing sport, and people always want to know like what's rugby all about. You guys play like football without pads. They just love it, and that's so amazing. It's good to hear. Yeah.
So you've only been here about a week.
Yeah.
What have you experienced? How's the food here? Like, what do you like the best? Tell us something you like about Houston that stands out already.
The steak is amazing. Like I'm from South Africa, so we love meat, right? And we love to barbecue. And like Houston is so close to home, also more developed. Like you know what I mean? Like it's such a nice place to be. Like like I said, all the people are amazing. The players here are very welcoming. Like that's so nice to see, because sometimes in the same position it could be hard, but like no one has that here, and like that's what I love. And everybody that I've met from Houston, like they're just so lovable and so kind, and they always try to help, and I'm excited. Like I'm happy to call this place my home now.
All right, so tell us, how good will the Sabercats be this year? Like, what should we as fans expect from the Sabercats?
We want to be the best team in the world, and we are going to do our best to portray that on the field. And from the beginning, we want to be the best, so we have to beat the best, and that's why we're starting off with last year's champs. All good, we'll go for them. I'm excited.
So that's Los Angeles. They're going to be
Yes.
here this weekend for the season opener, and they are the defending champions.
Yes, they are. I'm excited.
And
Yeah.
anything about them that you can? I mean, is it the same team from last year? Have there have been many changes with them as far as you know of? Have you had a chance to see them yet?
To be honest, like I don't like to focus on the competition because everyone in the league will be good because they have equal amount of good players. And what I always say in rugby, like when you play at professional level, right, everyone is good. Like everyone is good. So we have a lot of respect for all the teams, and we don't respect one team more than the other. So what I say, whenever we play rugby, we play for the Sabercats, and we don't play against the Galtinis or Austin or whatever it might be, or the Jackals, whatever it might be. We play for the Sabercats, and that's what we're here to do. We want to put on rugby so that the fans can come and watch. We just want to create something special, and that's why we're here.
I'm talking with Harry from the Sabercats. They're getting ready for their season opener. It is going to be his first game with the Sabercats. He's new to the franchise. He comes from South Africa. He's taking a little bit of time off. He's excited about being back. Okay, so I can't let you go without asking you about your other claim to fame.
Oh wow, we're going this straight off. All right.
Just a little bit. So, Too Hot to Handle. You are that's a reality show that you've had an appearance on, and apparently you're one of the popular people. They like you.
Yeah, I'm a very like straight up person, and like I say what I want in life, and I just do me, and like I've been on tour to handle. It was an amazing experience, but I don't know what more to collaborate on that.
I know, right? I think I kind of got you. So, how did you get on a show like that? Like, just in case somebody happens to be watching.
Like I was privileged to someone texted me on Instagram, DM'd me on Instagram, and such a beautiful lady. Like she DM'd me on Instagram, and she was like, "How would you like to be on the hottest show on earth?" And like I was like, "Man, like I would love to be on the hottest show on earth." I didn't think that it was going to be too hard to handle though. I thought it was going to be like a party place where like, because I was like done with rugby for a bit, I thought like just relax, like try and like take everything from the professional sportsman, like just take a break from it and just have fun for a bit. And that's what I did. And when I got there, like I was like, all right, I'm on one of the biggest reality TV shows in the world. Like, okay, let's go.
So I'm gonna ask you this, and then I'm gonna let you go. So are you engaged? Is that a true rumor? That's not true.
No, I'm not engaged. I am single. I'm very single, and to be honest, like I'm working on myself now. I want to be the best version I can be for myself and for my teammates, and I'm really just so privileged to be here. And to be honest, like when the right lady comes, I'll be excited to spend time with her and love her as she is. But for now, I'm single. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. Welcome to Houston. Welcome to the U.S., right? And I look forward to meeting you in person at one of these Sabercats games. I'm excited about rugby, and I'm sure that my audience is. So, Harry, have a great week. I know it's kind of nasty weather today, but hopefully it'll clear up and you guys can have a great opening to kick off the season on next Saturday.
Yes, this Saturday coming. We are so excited. We can't wait for you guys to come. And Kim, I just want to thank you. Thank you for me being on the show, and really appreciate it. Please come out. We will treat you guys amazingly. We want our fans to fill the stadium, and we want to make this the best year we've ever had.
All right, Harry. I will see you soon.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a good day. Bye.
All right. Okay, my mic was muted. At any rate, sorry about that. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for that, Charles. I'm like, why? I feel like I can't hear myself. All right, I had muted myself during the interview, but thanks to Cody Davis of the Houston Sabercats for setting up that interview. I wanted to have them on so we could one learn a little bit about the sport. You know how you play it, and the scoring is to me. If you know how they keep score, you can kind of follow along. And Harry's quite the personality, so I did want to kind of ask him about that whole too hot to handle thing. Something to check out. I put the information, I put the link in the chat if you want to be able to check out the Sabercats. They open their season at home this weekend against the defending champions. So check them out. And now I'm super excited to bring in my guest today, my live guest today, one that many of you have asked, when is Brandon coming back? So Brandon is back. Thank you, Brandon. You make me look good. I appreciate you hopping on with us today. Welcome back to Chalk Talk.
Oh, thanks for having me again. You make me look good, so I appreciate being in your presence and with your listeners and viewers. So anytime I can be a part of what y'all got going on, that's a plus for me. So thanks for having me again.
So Brandon Scott, of course, is with the B Block podcast and Sports Radio 610. You can also follow him on Twitter, and he'll be back, right? So this is what I'm doing. I'm kind of bribing him and his wife with Kimmy treats, and so far it's working, right? What did your wife think about the popcorn?
So first of all, I tried two different or three different flavors that you had. Mm-hmm. And no one in my household has been able to get to them just yet, but you can believe, or at least let me tell you, I brought the bag home and I haven't seen it since. So like last night I brought the bag home, didn't see it this morning. So you figure what happened. And I gave it the review. I gave it the proper review that it deserved, and then it was gone by the time I looked up. So we'll have to see. I will report back. But as a part of a family that is known to love popcorn, and also
I didn't know that.
We love popcorn, but we also love your treats. So this is a perfect meeting of the two worlds right here.
That's how you get them. You find that thing that you can get them to keep coming back, right? So I appreciate it. All right, so Brandon,
I'd have come back anyway.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. All right, so there's so much to get to. Since I saw you at the Rockets game last night, Tom Brady has made it official.
Yes.
He retired. Your thoughts about it? Were you surprised? Yeah. Were you surprised?
So first of all, I just want to point out, I got on a Rockets hoodie. I did not wear the Rockets hoodie last night at the game. Kim can attest to that.
Of course, he does not. Yeah, he knows better. He would not do that. Look, I got on all this red, but hey.
Just as a housekeeping matter. As far as the Tom Brady retirement, I'm not surprised. I mean, this is played out over the course of several days now, and even before the report came out from ESPN, Adam Schefter and Jeff Darlington over the weekend, we had suspected based off of the way Tom Brady had been talking about his family and his children, and it not being just about himself and wanting to kind of think about others other than himself, his family. And I don't know how much we'd heard Tom Brady talk exactly like that in relation to his retirement and playing status. Like, it felt even before the announcement came that he was much more closer than he had ever been. So when the announcement came, or when the reports came over the weekend, and there was conflict because his team came out and spoke against it, and he hadn't spent, and even earlier in the week, like yesterday, he was on a podcast speaking out against it. It wasn't surprising at all. If anything, and this is not me to defend Adam Schefter, who I don't know personally or anything, but I thought that Adam Schefter was kind of getting a little bit of a bad rap because he clearly got this information from somewhere, and I don't think would just, especially given the weight of it with Tom Brady, that he would just throw that out there haphazardly if he hadn't gotten it from a reliable place. Now, when his agent came out and his dad came out and Tom Brady himself came out and were kind of trying to talk it down, it did make me wonder, okay, not an agent, not one of the key members of the family. I wonder where exactly did he get this? And is Tom Brady's circle just a little too loose for somebody that is as coveted and whose image means as much as Tom Brady's? So I thought that part was odd, but nothing else surprised me. I mean, the man's 44 years old. If anything, the surprising part is that he's been able to play this long at this level. I'll tell you this, Kim, in full disclosure, I'd buried Tom Brady about 7 or 8 years ago. I thought he was done. Before the last 3 Super Bowls in New England, and obviously the seventh and final one that he won in Tampa Bay last year, I'd buried him. I was like, Tom Brady's cooked, he's done, get him out of here. And then he proceeded to win 4 Super Bowls. So that's the part that's more surprising to me, how he's proven so many wrong at every turn. And I think it's about time for him to probably walk away and do something else with his life. And I wish him the best. I hope that all of that family stuff that he talked about, assuming that all of that really does matter to him, I hope that they find whatever it is that they're looking for there.
You're listening to Chalk Talk. I'm talking with Brandon Scott, and you listen. What I really like to see is the player leave on his own terms, to leave when he can walk away from the game, to be able to do that, and to be able to do it physically and to be able to do it emotionally, because there's so much that goes into that separation from the sport, which is in a book and documentary that I'm working on. But I love to see it. When people got upset, when you see great players leaving, like, but they still have more. But more for you? Because what about them? He always said, I want to play till I'm 45. And so all week people have been saying, well, he'll be 45 in August. I think it's close enough, right? Because he played until his 45th year of life. His birth date hasn't just come yet. So, and he gets to decide. So good for him. I did think his post-game responses were very different than they usually are when he's always asked about his future. And I was like, something could be afoot. So congratulations to Tom Brady. And, but there's still there are a lot of other quarterbacks we can talk about.
Yeah. Well, Scott. I was just going to say real quick too, just on Tom Brady, like, I think when you look at this landscape, like, I don't think this had anything to do with it, but I think it's fitting. And I know Mahomes kind of wet the bed a little bit in the conference championship game, but when you look at what he's leaving behind, he mentioned something in his statement about the next generation of players, or this generation of players. And you look at that Mahomes Allen epic game in the divisional round, and then you get to the conference championship game, and lo and behold, it's Joe Burrow, the guy we wasn't talking about the week before because he got sacked 8 times. It's Joe Burrow.
9.
Was it 9? You're 9. That's right. Got sacked 9. That's right. Kim, you know what? Me and Sarge, what I told Sarge his name was. He was Joe 50 Cent Burrow because he got shot 9 times and survived. So he was Joe 50 Cent Burrow for the whole week for me. But yeah, so like to that point though, between Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, and those are just the ones that we watched the last couple of weeks on the AFC side. Not to mention all the others that are out there. The Justin Herberts and Kyler Murrays of the world. Deshaun Watson ever gets his situation together, he would be in the mix of that type of conversation as well. So the league is in good hands, and I think this is a perfect time for Brady to go. Like, talk about playing until you're 45. I mean, to me, that was always it was interesting that he got this far, because I was like, he's not gonna play till he's 45. He's not gonna do that. And
but I think the key too, Brandon, is not just to play, but to play at the level he played at, right? To be really good, to still be considered when he's on the other side of the field. That team always has a chance to win. To be playing at that level at 45.
Right. No, he could have won. He could have won the MVP this year if it wasn't for Aaron Rodgers, who's probably going to win it. But the quarterbacks that stand out to me when I think about this are Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning had the noodle arm when they won that Super Bowl his last year. Like, they won in spite of him in a lot of ways. Drew Brees last year wasn't quite as bad as Peyton Manning got toward the end of his career, but also you could see the limitations. And I mean, you just assume it's because Father Time is undefeated, and you did not see that with Brady, it was always a thinking man's game for Brady, and he always took care of his body in a way that allowed him to kind of be there, and so, I mean, I feel like the whole career really is just something that you got to respect, whether you like the Patriots, got Patriots fatigue at some point, or were annoyed by them, which I know I was at one point, but you got to respect it. Yeah.
So now let's move on to this past weekend, championship weekend. After what we saw in the divisional rounds, I mean, who would have thought that championship weekend would be that good, right? I'm like, you know what? We've seen the best football we're going to see last weekend with all those games. And then this weekend did not disappoint. I mean, to actually, at the end of the NFC Championship game, to see the quarterback take a knee was different. Like, the game's not going to end in overtime on the last play. It was good football, fun to watch. I was glad to see Joe Burrow, and of course DJ Reader, a guy we've covered, but that Cincinnati team get there. Think about it. This is Joe Burrow in his second season, right? We forget about the fact that he was injured early as a rookie, and so he's pretty much the real deal. And Matthew Stafford, I don't know if it got more of the monkey off his back or more of the monkey off of Odell Beckham Jr.'s back about, so I guess he's not really the cancer. I guess he does still have it. It was just good to see some different narratives coming out of the championship weekend.
Yeah, so Joe Burrow, I'll start with Joe Burrow. The fact that, I mean, this is his first full season, you could say, since he did get hurt midway through the season last year. Like, and I'm not trying to make him out to be a rookie, but like, this is the first time we've seen him from start to finish. And it's been every bit as much as we thought it would be, or what it looked like it could be coming out of LSU. I'll say that, because there probably were some legitimate questions. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not the greatest athlete, which is why it is so incredible to watch him evade pressure and just get out of the grasp of a guy like I think about Chris Jones, who is one of the best defensive linemen in all of football, getting to him, like beating his man, because we know that the Bengals offensive line is not very good. Beating his man, getting to Joe Burrow at least twice, maybe three times, and he's just slippery and was able to get out of it and to make plays. In some ways, it does remind me of some of the things that we've seen from Deshaun Watson, who is, I think, a much more physically gifted player than Joe Burrow is, but sort of the similar toughness and moxie in the pocket and outside of it, but being able to improvise and create plays outside of the pocket. I thought he was tremendous.
He's strong. I think that's one thing that I don't think we recognize, because we don't see him a lot at this level. I mean, because what you see somebody do in college, you don't know how that's going to always translate until you see him in the next level. But he's strong. So while he's not, necessarily fast, he's quick enough to get away, and he's strong enough. When you saw him kind of stepping up and I was like, oh wow, okay. We see you, Joe. We see what you got.
It's funny because he doesn't even have the size. He's probably similar size to Deshaun Watson, actually, but he doesn't have the size of a Josh Allen, the way Andrew Luck was big back in the day, Ben Roethlisberger, Cam Newton, like the guys who take hits or the guys who absorb contact the way Joe Burrow has shown he is not shy to do, and the guys who get out of those the grip and the grasp of a defensive lineman. He's one of those guys, just without the size. And it is phenomenal to watch. I thought that was really, you mentioned Matt Stafford getting the monkey off his back. In a lot of ways, I thought he had done that in the previous week by beating Brady. And I think it would have been a tough sell to lose to the 49ers, given Jimmy G had to play out of his mind. I don't know if he would have been able to live that down, because that was the perfect storm for them, I think. Even though the 49ers had their number, I think it's a better situation, a better scenario to be there at home against the Jimmy G-led 49ers offense as opposed to Aaron Rodgers coming in there. Even though, again, I think the last 6 meetings or whatever it was, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers had beaten them. So if anything, it was a little bit of Sean McVay. Even though he made some questionable decisions at different points in the game, it was some ways him getting the monkey off of his back after Matthew Stafford had done that the week before. Full disclosure, I'm not trying to sell anybody as Matthew Stafford, the Hall of Famer or anything like that. But I've always thought that I've always thought he's pretty good. Like, not great, certainly not awful, supremely talented. It put in a bad situation for most of his career in Detroit. And so to that I say, yeah, pretty good. He's pretty good. So when he gets with other players that are really good, I feel like his play is elevated. I think that he is a difference. I can't remember who I heard say this in some of my traffic and some of the commentary, but somebody said that he wasn't a difference maker. I totally disagree. When you got a guy that can throw the ball as far as you can, and you got guys that can go get it like Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham, not to mention, I know Robert Woods is hurt, but guys like that, Van Jefferson, like when you got the weapons that they got and he can throw it a country mile, he's a difference maker.
He's a difference maker because, like you say, they can't make those catches if he can't get it to them, if he can't put it where he needed to. So it's spectacular, really, on both ends, right? You can't play pitch and catch if nobody's pitching it. So I agree with you on that. I think listen, I think one of the things we've seen over these past few weeks of playoff football is we're reminded. Let me speak for myself. I was reminded, not that I've forgotten, but reminded what a difference an elite quarterback makes and good coaching, right? I mean, look how quickly the Cincinnati Bengals have kind of turned things around. We don't know what's going to happen on Super Bowl weekend, but they're in the Super Bowl, right? Yeah, they're 2 years removed from having the first overall pick because they were that bad, And so I tell you, Brandon, I have done a very good job this season of just really moving on from the notion that Deshaun Watson would be a Texan, right? I had to just divorce myself from the fact that I was going to be able to cover, one of the great players in this league, right? He's just, it's over. He's done. Yep. But as I was watching the playoffs, I thought, man, he's a guy that would be in the conversation. Like, he's the kind of talent that you wait this franchise has waited its entire existence for. It doesn't just happen all the time, and that you had the guy in the building and you couldn't figure out how to make it work for whatever reasons. I'm not saying who's at fault. I'm just saying that is really sad. It really is disturbing.
Yeah, I told you mentioned Cody Davis earlier, helped you get the Sabercats interview. So I mentioned this to Cody months ago when I was on their show, but the whole point, and that's what's frustrating about it, and it's not to bag on Davis Mills, but like the whole point of this football thing is to get somebody, either Deshaun Watson himself or somebody like that, and I think about with him being out of sight, out of mind, so to speak, not playing this year, how many different quarterbacks have kind of jumped ahead of him in that conversation. Like, think about this, Kim, back in 2020, 2019, certainly 2020 was a rough year, but certainly 2019, we had him in that conversation with Patrick Mahomes. Now, part of that is because they're the same exact age, come from the same draft class. I think drafted maybe 2 spots apart. Like, that part made sense, and they're somewhat friendly with each other. So, and then I think there were some places like ESPN's Undefeated that was deeming that the year of the black quarterback, because so many of them were coming on. Excuse me. So we had all of that going on, and you think about the ones that have jumped ahead of him, at least in the conversation: Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. Just to name a few. I know Kyler Murray tailed off a little bit there at the end of the season, but at least he had his team in the postseason and played. You think about it, it's like, man, the whole point, and Houston fans in particular, specifically us, right? We waited. What was it? 14, 15, 16.
16 years.
16. So, right. And I'm going to give Matt Schaub a little bit of credit, but like, obviously he's not that level of guy either. So I'm not going to say they never had a franchise quarterback, but they didn't have one that was like top 5, top 10 kind of conversation. So if you factor that in, 15, 16, 17 years, something like that for an elite guy. And then it only lasts a couple seasons, and you don't even really feel like you understand what exactly happened. Like, okay, Deshaun is looking at the franchise as incompetent. A lot of the rest of us are too, giving them a side eye. And then all this other stuff that's going on. You're like, man, how did it go from like this ideal scenario to now you're at the very beginning stages of a rebuild? You're hoping that a third round pick who showed some signs of competence at least. Well, you're hoping that you can put your eggs in that basket, but you probably can't. Like that's
right.
Like, as much credit as I want to give Davis Mills, it's hard to look at him and think, man, he could be one of those guys that I was watching over the last couple of weeks in the conference championship games and the divisional games. Like you don't see it, and hopefully you do, but it's all the more of a letdown when you think about it. It's like, man, this could be just 2 years ago, right? Or is it just 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
We're at NRG Stadium and Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson
right.
are going back and forth, and it wasn't necessarily one for the ages because it was the wild card round. But but if you keep it in that context, I mean, it was a very, very good game between two really promising quarterbacks that give you a lot outside the pocket and are exciting to watch. And so
then the next weekend it was Deshaun going into Kansas City, then jumping out, getting that great lead, and then then it falling apart because Bill O'Brien was doing some very Bill O'Brien. Even for him, some of the stuff was like making you really scratch your head. Like, what was that?
Yeah,
what
for sure.
What just happened? So, but now you're so far away from it, and it's not just the quarterback play, which is huge. Elite quarterbacks are difference makers in this league, but coaching matters, and that brings me to where this team is with coaching.
Yeah.
Josh McCown has had 2 interviews.
Yeah.
Brian Flores has had 2 interviews. I feel like I should have sent my resume in, right? You know what I mean? No disrespect to like a Brian Flores, but I think if Josh McCown is being considered, like, okay. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's a slap on the face for not just all of the people he stepped over. Let's go with that, right? If Josh McCown can get a job, they should just stop with the Rooney Rule. It's a joke. It doesn't make a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
But the fans, right? The fans are like, are you kidding me? Your customers, because that's what fans are. Those are your customers, your clients, who have been so disappointed that each home game felt like a home game for the visiting team because they would have more fans in the stadium. For the first time in the franchise's history, and I covered this team, the city getting the franchise with Mr. McNair getting the franchise. They never discounted season tickets. That's because you have disenfranchised your fans, and now you're talking about giving the guy a job who's never been a coach. Get out of here, man.
Yeah, it's the wildest thing, and what's really fascinating about it from a content perspective is that there are so many different angles to go from it. Like you think about, okay, this makes it clear that that's the reason why they brought him in as a third string quarterback to never activate him and for him to never see the field. It was just to get him to come see the lay of the land. Do you like what the direction of the organization is going? That sort of thing. Like that was clearly some type of apprenticeship or quasi internship. Like, and a lot of us thought that at the time. So there is that, obviously the connection to the executives there, to Jack Easterby, and which is a right or wrong or indifferent is a lightning rod to kind of topic for people and sows a lot of mistrust, distrust, lack of trust is what I'm getting at there because of the past, which is something that a lot of us are trying to get beyond, like a lot of us are not trying to necessarily, I know we spent some time talking about the glory days of, with Deshaun and, all of that, but a lot of us are trying to get beyond the past, and pieces of the past keep on popping up. And so I think there's some shock there, I think, for a lot of people. And then the main point, and forgive me for bearing the lead in my answer because you started with it and kicked it to me with it, the whole part of never doing the job before. Like, I don't know how.
Then there's that, right?
Oh my God. Like, I don't know how we overlook that, like I look at it like this. And this probably isn't the perfect counterfactual, but like, I'm in radio, right? I can do radio, but my background, my first decade in the business was mostly writing. I wasn't doing radio. I got into radio. It would have been like if I get there and they're like, Oh, you know what? He spent a decade in the media biz. He knows about media, and he sounds good, and he can put sentences together. We're gonna give him the drive time show. We're gonna give him his own show immediately, and like that's not how it works. And this is not to make this about me, but that's just one example, like how
I think even a better example, because that I don't think that's as big a stretch as him saying he's familiar with media. We're gonna let him come in and run all our stations.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
he's gonna have all control, and he's gonna hire the people that are gonna be on the air. He's gonna run the stations. He's gonna determine the direction. But he's never done that. Oh, it doesn't matter. He's a good guy, and so we find ourselves when we're talking about Josh. I hear people saying, I mean, not to disparage him. And I get a little. I'm not about disparaging anybody either, but nobody said that about David Culley as they raked him over the coals week in, week out, and I'm like, y'all need to have. Not that you should be nasty to people. I'm not advocating for that, but I need y'all to have that same energy about the fact that Josh McCown is not qualified to be a head football coach in the National Football League because he's never coached. He was a volunteer coach, kind of part-time in high school.
Yeah. Well, and also like the notion that process doesn't matter. Like I've said this, that is a better comparison. It'd be like if they made me the GM of this entire place. Like, what are we talking about? So, but I think process matters, right? Like some other examples of players who are well respected among their peers and believed to be guys who could be a head coach one day, right? I'll just take two some semi-local examples for people that you can relate to. Mike Vrabel, who was the defensive coordinator here for a year and was a position coach shortly before that, and D'Amico Ryans, who is obviously the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers now, has been in conversations for head coach to interview. I think even turned down one recently a couple of days ago to stay there. And obviously a Texans great, okay?
Right.
What is it about Josh McCown that makes him so much better than, say, D'Amico Ryans and Mike Vrabel, who cut their teeth in coaching before they got these opportunities? Like, and don't tell me about how Mike Vrabel's defense wasn't good when he was the defensive coordinator. I understand that. I remember that very vividly. But he actually, people got to see him coach. He himself got to coach and then know that that's something that he genuinely wanted to do. And so, like, the dues paying is it's not just lip service. It's not just, crossing your T's and dotting your I's. Like, it does matter. Like, going through the experience of being being the veteran backup quarterback is not the same as being the quarterback's coach. It's just not. You might do some coaching. You might give some pointers. You might be you might even be a more trusted advisor. They might even trust your opinion more than they trust the coaches. That could very well be true. I think that's the case. You'll find that in a lot of different teams where there's like a veteran.
Well, that happens a lot with a veteran, but also even with assistant coaches, right? Because when we were talking to Coach Silas, and we'll talk Rockets in a little bit, but a couple weeks ago, just about these relationships, and I asked him about how it's different now than before, and he said, he came back to, I know the context of what you meant, but the first difference is because I'm a head coach, right? As an assistant coach, you have all these, so you have those conversations, but as a head coach, I'm the one that gets to determine if you play, when you play, and all of that. So that's different, but then also, yes, it's different from a context standpoint.
Yeah.
I think, listen, Mike Vrabel, that when the HBO show, was here, that was helpful for him. Hard Knocks was here. He kind of people saw him. I was disappointed that he got a shot so soon because there's so many, because there's so many black coaches that have been waiting forever. Yeah. However, Vrabel, like one of the few that have come through from the Patriots tree, he's done a good job. But he had been a coach in New England. He came here as a linebacker coach before he became the defensive coordinator. He was DC for 1 year, but at least he was that. Process does matter.
That's what I'm saying. You go from being one of the boys and one of the more respected boys amongst the boys, but being one of the boys and you skip middle management just to go straight to being the boss, like that. Right. That is, and even I don't even think it matters if it doesn't foster resentment within the locker room. Like, I think even if the Texans locker room were to accept it, it still would be just bad practice to set the precedent of, like, the other argument is, hey, there's no set formula on how to hire a head coach. Well, I think that that's true. There is no set formula for how.
But here's the thing, Brandon. But they used to say it was.
Well, what I'm saying is, even if there's not, this ain't it. You know what I mean?
This ain't it. No, this is not it. This is not the thing to do.
The counter argument is, this certainly ain't the formula where you go hire somebody who's never coached before, and therefore you do not know. The thing that bothers me most, when I wrap on this, is that for all the few fascinations, I know some people who are fascinated with the idea of Josh McCown. No one can really explain it beyond, oh, well, everybody like him. Everybody says, everybody got something good to say about him. But what can you tell me about him as a coach that makes him worthy of being the head coach? And you can't, because he's never done it. It's all a projection. And I don't get why you would want to project for your head coach. I feel like you would want to have a decent sense for what the head coach is going to be. So
what it says to me is Nick wants total control. Okay. Jack's got to like you, because the culture, which is a word that is just used all the time, but the culture is clearly, you got to be one of our dudes, whatever that means for us. You know, people keep talking about, well, Jack's a big Christian. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. Okay, I don't wear it on my sleeve. Hopefully you see it in how I move through my life. Is that the requirement? I mean, I just feel like it can't. That's way too personal. Like, well, I like Brandon because he's got locks, and I like locks, so that gives him some kind of special. I mean, I just think it's so ridiculous, the things that we talk about it. And listen, I had a conversation with Jack Easterby. And a very lengthy conversation. He said he would do an interview. We'll see if he will actually do that at some point. And he talked about, this whole, like, the importance of diversity and, getting black quarterbacks in the quarterback room so they can call plays, because that's important. All of these things, but really, I sit back now and go, well, Jack, that really don't matter. What really matters is there's somebody who gets to make a decision like him. That's all that matters. Yeah. And I mean, that's it. And I think you make a really good point that that's easy to overlook if this is not an important issue to you. Diversity in hiring and fairness in hiring. Like, if these things are not important to you, then it's easy for you to overlook it and just focus on, all right, well, let's just go. Let's just do it then. And that, I think, just in it, not to give a buzzword that could scare some people away, but that's privilege. Okay. So understand that there is privilege in not being able to concern yourself with matters like this that do in fact matter. And so I think it is in a lot of ways a mockery of diversity in hiring. Not just, hire a white guy, whatever, but you hire one that ain't qualified, like, or that hasn't even coached before. Like, David Culley was somebody that I didn't think was going to be a head coach from the very beginning, but David Culley spent his whole life coaching. So from that standpoint, you couldn't say that he wasn't qualified. Now, he opened up his mouth and make a couple of decisions, and then you might think, okay, I don't know if this guy is qualified, but at least resume wise. Right. David Culley just needed some, let me tell you what he needed.
My point.
He needed some good media training. That's what he needed. He needed media training. That really hurt him more. Because I'm still, listen, we know Nick is in the booth. We know Nick got some input. It's not the same input he had in New England. That's another show. But I'm not saying Culley's the answer, but I still am like, yeah. His biggest problem was how he delivered.
All I'm saying is a black coach could never come in there talking about, I ain't never coached before, and you going to make me the face of your organization. You're going to make me your head coach. Like, you can say that they hired an unqualified black coach, but you can't say that they hired one that didn't have the resume that met the qualifications. The result turned out that he wasn't any good. But David Culley, D'Amico Ryans, you name the black man or woman. You name the black person that come in there that can say, I ain't never did this before, but y'all gonna give me the job. I don't think that person exists. I don't think that person exists.
Well, here's the thing, and then we're gonna go and talk some basketball because that's a little later. But one of the things that Jack talked about when he called me, he talked about how and it goes back to my first encounter with him about a year and a half ago that kind of got me kind of quasi blackballed from the team for that year, asking about diversity and about equity, and he talked about that being important, and I'm like, how? Yeah. I mean, it's just not the truth. And how one thing we're going to always do, Kim, is we're going to tell the truth. I mean, those are the two things that stand out about the conversation I had with him that was so disappointing, because you brought these things up. I don't think you're being transparent. I think it is showing not just in the product on the football field, but that's showing in their business relationships, because in the business community, they are not as respected as they used to be. They're not considered good corporate citizens in terms of how they do business. And that's from top to bottom. That's an organizational problem.
And they earn that. So
they earn that. And they're going to be all right because they got a whole bunch of money. So listen, we're going to talk a little bit about the Houston Rockets. You and I were both at the game last night, which it was an atmosphere that I hadn't really felt in the Toyota Center in a minute, right? It was kind of cool. Yeah. They lost to Golden State, and you can say, well, Golden State was without some of their key people, that were out injured, but you got a superstar, a real fledged. Well, you got a couple guys. I mean, Wiggins is really good, but you got Steph Curry, who at any moment, you just love talking to him, can turn it on, and that is exactly what he did last night. It was fun to watch him. A lot of people made notice of, KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr. kind of doing a little trash talk. We talked about it in post game. Steph said, I don't really get caught up in that. And so after the game, KPJ, for the end game, went over to talk to him to ask him for kind of some tips. And somebody in post game said to Steph, he came and asked you for something. Here's how Steph responded to that. I
mean, I can do a good job of separating the 48 minutes and everything else in terms of quote unquote giving back to the game, because I had a lot of people that did that for me. And he asked a solid question on how I approach a certain part of the game, and when I gave what I knew, it's like I said, you kind of pass the torch on to some of that wisdom off, but I had to wait till after the buzzer.
I tell you, I've always been a Steph Curry fan, except those years he was, nailing it to the Rockets in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But he's right. It's what you give to the game. But here's what impresses me about these Rockets. And I asked Stephan Silas about it afterwards, about how they always fight. And they always fight, but not just that they always fight. Like, they feel like they can play with these guys. I love that, because I don't know that some of the veteran Rockets teams I've covered some people thought they were in playoffs, and we thought that they were perhaps ready to win a championship. I don't think they had that. And these young guys got it, man. I love it.
Yes, and to the point about the trash talk, like, I thought that was great, because it was clear that it wasn't disrespect. Like, I could not look at that and think that Kevin Porter Jr. is doing this out of disrespect. Like, to me, he's clearly trying to amp himself up and trying to rise to the moment. He's playing against one of the greatest to ever do it, the greatest shooter to ever do it. And look, man, whatever you need to do to get yourself up, like, think about the fact of how cool and calm and collected Steph Curry was in that moment. He wasn't going back, because what did he need to do? What kind of motivation does Kevin Porter Jr. give him? None, and neither should he. So it totally made sense that a young guy, you got to remember, KPJ is 21 years old. Steph Curry talked about this after the game too, more so talking about Jalen Green, but these guys were in school, like, were children when Steph first, like Davidson Steph, or first getting into the league Steph. We're talking about fast forward on to championship stuff, which to us is like recent. We're like, what? They were children, but they were children. So they look up to him in a way that I don't think some of us, once you get a certain age, and I'm right around the same age as Steph, once you get a certain age, you can't really fully identify with how much of an icon this person is with the young people. And so I think that was a huge part of it. I totally agree with you on Steph just being a good steward of the game, ambassador of the game, just a stand-up dude. And like I hated those runs with the Warriors and the Rockets. What I hated was that the Rockets were so close and at the same time so far. Like it never really seemed like, even when they had their best chance, it always felt like the Warriors just had a little bit more firepower than they did. And then, of course, the injuries factored into how all of that played out. But I agree with you with your point about these younger players, and that's what I was getting at before with KPJ, amping himself up, getting his confidence, whatever he needed to do. And I think you look at guys like KPJ and Christian Wood. I worry a little bit right now about Jalen Green's confidence because of the struggles that he's having, but I also don't really get the sense that that's a dude that lacks for confidence,
Yeah, I think he's going to be okay with that. I think he is. If KPJ I would be more concerned, I think, about the KPJ, but I think Jalen is playing and working through it. But I tell you, really like what you see from Josh Christopher, right? Man. I think you tweeted something last night. It's like, who would have thought that he'd be the rookie that's the most consistent? And the only reason I would say maybe me, it's not because of anything I saw before he got here. It's because I had a chance to meet and talk with his father. So I understand his foundation and really more of who he is. And so I'm like, yeah, this is the guy, right?
Yeah, right. Well, but also, I mean, Stephan Silas himself has said he didn't think he'd be a part of the rotation at this point. I think a lot of people who were even high on Josh Christopher as, not just as a member of the team that were excited about him, thought, I'll just speak for myself. I was hoping that he'd get heavy minutes in the G League if they weren't going to give him heavy minutes here with the NBA team. So he did that for like a hot second. He comes back and shows that he deserves every bit of a minute there's anybody else that comes off of that bench. And to my point before, he has been and is their most reliable and consistent rookie from end to end on defense and on offense to make he's not a perfect player, obviously, nowhere close. So I don't even know if he's going to be, I wouldn't even say he's going to be a star, but he knows what he's doing out there. He seems to have a good idea of just go out there, have energy, be aggressive, give maximum effort, and that's really all they need from him coming off the bench.
And don't take bad shots, right? Make sure you take good shots.
and he seems to have a good sense for what is a good shot and what is not. Shot recognition. That's really the biggest difference between him for me right now and Jalen Green, is that you see how supremely talented Jalen Green is, but he just has not really figured out how to pick his spots and where exactly, like, he's got so much ability he doesn't even know what to do with it at this point, I think is what his issue is. Whereas Josh Christopher, slightly older, I think, maybe a couple months or something like that. But
and he played the year in college. I mean, he did go and play a little bit in college, which it's not a lot, but it does make a difference.
Yeah, and I think I just think that between what we've seen from all of the rookies, that you have to at least be encouraged that growth is there. Like, Josh Christopher is already playing a little bit better than people expected him to, and then Jalen Green, for his struggles, you figure, all that's going to happen is that the kid is going to get better. Alperen Sengun, with all of the fouling and the issues defensively, well, you think, well, it's got to get better with time and experience. So.
Hey, Akeem likes him. Akeem says he's tough, and Akeem's working with him. So,
I'll take Akeem's word for sure.
I'll take Akeem's word. Christian Wood, we've seen him. We saw him in his first year with the Rockets come in and look like, okay, he can really add something. And then, of course, James left, and then he had the injury issues. And this year you come in with this really a whole new team, a lot of youth. But Christian Wood is kind of finding his own stride. I mean, he got off to a great start last night. They made some adjustments at halftime, they being the Warriors. But after the game, he kind of talked about just where this team is. And, nobody wants to talk about, I want to make sure that I set this up right. None of them are saying we're okay losing because it was the Warriors or we look good. They want to win. Like, they really want to win. But they also understand who they are, and they're able to say, here's where we're growing and what we need to do. So here's Christian in this fly outfit after the game last night.
Yeah, for sure. I felt like we was making it tough. He had an open three in transition, but overall, I felt like we was trying to make it tough for him. He's a great player.
What do you do when he just goes off like that? When you're contesting the shots and he's still hitting them?
You try to stay composed, stay with what works, and just try and run it on the offensive end and not let that affect it, because that's how they get momentum, is off of their threes, and that's a big factor in their game and why they win games.
As one of the leaders of this team, you all were down by 18. He cut the lead to 4. Yeah. What can you take away from that going into the next game?
I mean, we're right there. Our switch defense was good. Everybody was communicating. It's just even JG was playing great defense on Clay. They was just hitting tough turnarounds and tough shots, and that's really what we forced them to shoot tough mid-range shots, and that's what we want. But they made them.
You were hot pretty much from the start, but just got one shot in the fourth quarter. But you guys are scoring well. How do you feel? Do you need more touches, or are you willing to sort of step back when the scoring is coming anyway?
Lately, I've just been trying to let the game come to me instead of me trying to force it and let the guards try and make a play. And whether the ball comes my way or not, I can only control what I can control, and just play my game. That's what I've been doing. So I try not to look too hard and how many shots I'm getting in the fourth.
So I love that, Brandon. I'm gonna wrap up so I don't take up all your day, but I love the fact that he said, I'm letting the game come to me, right? I'm not getting caught up, because that can really get you thrown off, right? And your attitude can get bad. These young guys out here, I'm not getting that many shots. But he said, let the game come to me and basically fit in where I get in. That's maturity.
Yeah, and he said the right thing there. He had a moment in the second half. I can't remember if it was the third or fourth quarter, but he had a moment there where he gets the ball and he's trying, and he's gonna like try to cross over or something like that. He's on the perimeter, like on the right wing, and he loses the ball, of course. And it's like, come on, man. Because as soon as he said that, I thought about that moment when I saw that clip. I thought about that moment where he was forcing things, and I bet you right then and there he's like, man, that is not an example of letting the game come to you, and just kind of
that's not what I do.
right, and just kind of coming undone in the moment. But I do love that Christian Wood showed maturity in that moment, despite the sunshades inside at nighttime. I'm not gonna hold that against him. He's a wealthy young man, whatever, all good. But aside from that, like, I love that. The theme of that whole clip was stay composed, keep your composure, and stick with what you do. Exactly what you do. Don't get out of character. Don't get out of your element. Don't be defeated just because Steph Curry is hitting these contested shots, these impossible shots. You know who Steph Curry is.
Like from the stands, right?
That's what he does. So go out there and contest. Anyway, the one thing that bothered me last night was when Steph Curry won the jump, that tip ball against Jayshawn Tate. And then he kind of just rolls out behind a screen. They set a quick screen because they do this so well, where they just set us. It's like they automatically know to set screens. So immediately off of the tip, there's a
what's coming.
They set a screen, and mind you, Steph Curry, who was the tipper, right, who won the tip, just leaks out into the wing, hits a three immediately. I don't even know if the ball bounced. So I thought,
I don't think it did.
They are so good. And
so good.
And honestly, I didn't think that was a bad defensive effort by the Rockets, but that's one of those moments that, speaking to Christian Wood's point of staying composed and, and just keep your head.
Listen, the Rockets missed the first 7 shots. The Warriors got out to a 10-0 lead before the Rockets ever scored last night. Then they came back. So they kept, that to me is growth, because that just shows you that they're getting it, and some of that stuff you can't really coach, right? You can't really coach.
Yeah, no,
I think it's exciting.
Yeah, no, I think that Jalen Green has a skill set that you can't really coach. I think that Josh Christopher has a motor that you do coach up and develop. Like I think that there are they got some really interesting pieces that fit well together. I feel like Alperen Sengun is a player that you can just coach up, you know. So like I said, I think they got a lot of a really good mix of young guys, and I don't like all of the losing, but we did this already. Like I always say this, comparing it to last year where it was losing and it was like, but what are we doing? Other than, hey, we're going to it's probably going to be a high draft pick at the end of all of this. It was like, what is this even? Like, what are we even doing?
What's next? Like,
right.
Like what are you working toward? Yeah.
Whereas with this, it feels like you're losing with a purpose. It's like the losing is kind of the side note. Not that it doesn't matter, but it's sort of an aside because it's like, okay, well, did they develop? I asked Stephan Silas this after the game was, what is the value in an experience like that of watching Steph go off in the fourth quarter like that? Have his best fourth quarter ever. We're talking about a legend having his best fourth quarter, or at least for sure in the regular season, ever. Like, what does that moment do for a young guard like KPJ to witness that and be in the mix, and not be scared and like want to go toe for toe with him? And for Jalen Green, who is struggling to watch. I even asked Steph Curry after the game, like, when did you over the years, when did you develop that sense for when to take as a combo guard? Like, when did you develop that, and the best shooter, when did you develop that sense for when to take over a game, when to, just get in your bag, so to speak? And I think that, or at least I'll say, I hope that for Jalen Green and KPJ's sake, that they're taking very detailed notes and that experience was valuable for them living through it and watching Steph Curry do his thing.
Talking with Brandon Scott of the B Block podcast, also Sports Radio 610. We're wrapping up, but it's always great. I appreciate Brandon joining me. And yeah, Charles said they have a very good coach who, in a situation that most NBA coaches wouldn't want to be in. Like, especially if you think about the fact that when Stephan Silas came here and he thought he was going to be coaching, Westbrook and Harden. And so it changed everything. I'm not saying he wouldn't have come, but talking about having to regroup and just the atrocity that last year was, and even just starting this year, getting them going, it's a lot more than just X's and O's that he's having to do. And so I did tell the people that we hear something for Stephan Silas. We'll play this last clip and I'll get your thoughts on what Stephan Silas said after the game.
The game, they were allowing him to shoot his threes, and he had it going, so we were just picking and popping, and he was shooting his threes. They were much more attentive to him when he caught the ball above the three-point line, as far as closing out to him, making him put the ball on the floor, sometimes switching, not letting it be an easy game for him. So, I think he had 17 in the first half and ended up with 24 and 13, which is a very good game. But yeah, they gave him a lot more attention in the second half than they did in the first half, that's for sure.
The 8 first quarter turnovers where they allowed them to go numbers to 18 points. At this point, what can you do to kind of get the team to slow down a little bit in such situations?
Well, timeout that I had, and trying to get us to sustain our play, and that was one of the messages that I had to the group, and John Lucas had mentioned it to the group as well, as far as the dips that we sometimes have in our play, and when we had all those turnovers, that was one. But we just need to. It was so Christian had 6 and Scoot had 5, and those are the guys who had the ball the majority of the time. So to have to do a better job, especially against a really good team when they're trying to make that run, and we got to learn.
So I just, he gets it. I mean, I just listening to Stephan Silas, and I know that if you sometimes listen to, you go online and see people that, he know what he's doing, they should fire him. He knows exactly what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
He's got it. I mean, I'm not saying that he never makes a mistake, but he gets it. He knows what it takes. These guys respond to him and bringing them along. Like he said, there are some people critical, like, why he using all his timeouts? Because that's what he has to do. Like, when it's a whole different world. Like he said, I got to try to slow him down. And so it's so much that goes into it, but he is cool to work with. They are fun to watch, and I'm looking forward, Brandon, to what this team does in the future. Let me ask your thoughts before we go. What is your best, if you had to make a prediction on how the John Wall situation ultimately is resolved, what do you think happens?
Yeah, so when those reports came out a couple of weeks ago about the Rockets being interested in trading John Wall to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook, but really only to cash out his salary and all of that, like I thought that was very interesting and honestly a best case scenario, because it really brings us back to the original John Wall for Russell Westbrook trade, which was, hey, you got these guys that have been good at various points, but now are way overpaid and possibly and likely over the hill. With John Wall's case, obviously he had not been healthy in previous years, was healthy last year, and I thought actually played pretty good for a guy that hadn't really played in a couple of years, honestly.
In a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, so to me, it's got to be something like that. I'll be honest, Kim, not to get on a tangent, but I really don't get why this even had to happen to begin with. Like, I think that they could have played John Wall. I don't know who it is, which side it is that's hurting it more or keeping it more from happening. But I do feel like John Wall could have and should have had a role on this team. There is not a point guard. And look, I like KPJ. I like Jalen Green. Right. They are. It can be the future. But there's not a better point guard on the team than John Wall. And I honestly think that those two, meaning KPJ and Jalen Green, could have benefited from being on the floor with him. I think they could have gotten better touches and better looks. I think they both like being off the ball and sometimes having the ball here and there. Like, I think that could have worked. Now, we're long past that point. But to me, it's just a shame that they never even gave it a go. Like, just assumed, hey, well, KPJ's our new point guard. John Wall doesn't have any utility. I'd never bought into that and thought that was a misstep on the Rockets' part, and maybe even John Wall's part for refusing to come off the bench or whatever the case may be. But if I had to guess, it would have to be something like that. Like, what is the deadline's on the 10th? We got 10 days or 9 days?
I mean, I understand the whole, not wanting to just buy him out, but because you're going to have to buy Russ out. Russ would never be a Rock. He's never going to play here. But at least you would get something in exchange in return for it. I have to believe, and I don't have this on any great authority. This was a management decision. I don't know if it was Raphael's decision or if it was Patrick Tillman's son. I don't believe it was Silas's decision. It's not a great basketball decision. It's not really a distraction because John Wall is just like back home in Miami, just kicking it, working out, staying ready, getting a check. I just am like a fat check, right? And so we'll see what happens, but I don't think it was the best way to do it. All right, so the Major League Baseball lockout continues. I believe that there are meetings today, so we remain hopeful that there can be some movement because it's time to start getting ready for spring training. I do not want there to be a delay to the start of the season. I don't think baseball can really afford that, so hopefully the two sides can come together and get something done. When do you think the Texans will hire a coach?
Oh man, I am on the edge of my seat. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, within the next 24, 48 hours, and that's just being generous. Like, it could happen any second.
Moment. Now, I keep checking my phone to see.
Everybody's on pins and needles here at the station. I can tell you that for sure.
Right. Well, wasn't there some talk about season ticket sales or season tickets going on sale and them wanting to wait or do it after that? Or
it's a conspiracy theory, and you can't dismiss any conspiracy theory when it comes to the Texans because this is the reputation that they have built for themselves. But there is the conspiracy theory that the season tickets don't come out until Friday or don't go on sale until Friday, and that they don't want to make the hire preemptively before the season tickets. They want to give you an opportunity to buy your season ticket no matter who the coach is going to be. and then you find out after the fact, and then maybe you're selling your tickets every week or whatever the case may be.
I think they're overstating if that even. I mean, so it is a conspiracy theory, and you're right. The Texans have earned the right to kind of dial in and check them all out. But I just don't even think it matters that much. I think people are just fans, season ticket holders, and I talk to a lot of them. They're just disgusted, and so you think what holding off to after the tickets they go on sale is going to matter? Because people might just wait. It's not like there's a waiting list anymore. And here's the thing: who wants the Texans job, right? Charles says that nobody wants the job. So who? You think, does Flores say, man, I don't really want the job, but I don't have any other offers? I mean, like, what do you think the conversations are about who would actually come and take this job?
It's just a very peculiar and specific situation. I do think that there is an issue of the demand for this job, or like people wanting this job. I'm not discounting that. I do think it might be a little bit overstated because, like, not to use a Cullyism, but it is one of 32. It is one of 32 jobs, as David Culley said. And I have a hard time believing, and this is just kind of where I fall in line with, like, hiring David Culley or trying to hire Josh McCown. Like, you can't tell me that because, quote unquote, nobody wants the job, that means you go and hire somebody that just outright shouldn't have it. Like, there is got to be a middle ground there between
absolutely
finding qualified candidates who will take the job and maybe not being in the running for the top candidates on the market. So Brian Flores, for example, who you mentioned, I think that that's an example of somebody who is qualified for the job, but one of the few like qualified candidates who they can get in because of some of the background and the relationships and because they could maybe make it work. I have a tough time seeing it, but it's not like I know Brian Flores well or anything. So so maybe there is a relationship element that would allow it to work in spite of the way things seem on the outside. So that's kind of where
I think it's, I agree with you. It's one of 32, but then it's like, do I hitch my wagon to that, what I know is a disaster, right? I'm probably not going to be able to hire my whole staff because coaches get to hire their staff. This is something new that they're doing here. I've got a general manager who's super... he's a control freak. I don't care. He's a control freak. He just is. His level of control and needing it and wanting it. You could even see it when we're doing it in a press conference. He's no, wait, you go. Then I mean, that's what he does. I mean, and I think that those things may weigh into somebody saying, if I go in here and it's a disaster, which it could be, then that could be it for me. I think black coaches have to think that because we don't get we don't get other chances to be bad. So other guys, not so much.
They fired David Culley after 1 year. Brian Flores himself was just fired after back-to-back winning seasons. So, like, I mean, and then as of right now, I'm trying to think of the hires that have been made. But at least when this hiring cycle started, there was one black coach in all of the NFL, and that's doggone Mike Tomlin.
Because he's never had a losing season in 15 years.
The extreme example of a coach, black or white, like, you know what I mean? So
but that's
it's like,
what it takes.
We got to be Mike.
Jim Caldwell keeps getting passed over. People want to hold.
Like that. If you wanted a bridge coach, why didn't you? Jim Caldwell seemed like somebody that would have taken this job. I don't know if he would have let people tell him what to do or anything like that.
I can't imagine he would do that. I don't think he would have done that. And my understanding is Leslie Frazier wanted no part of that either.
But that's also somebody that, like, I thought about this as you were saying that, referring to Nick Caserio as a control freak. Like, I wonder what type of coach would it take for him to even relinquish that kind of control? Is he capable of it? Like, what level of coach or coaching prospect would you need to bring in here in order to do that? It wasn't David Culley, and the doggone sure ain't gonna be no Josh McCown, and it makes you skeptical. Again, kind of going back to your point and question earlier about Brian Flores, makes you skeptical of whether that would actually work too, because that's someone who, just left a power struggle, just left a place where he probably didn't feel like his input or opinion was appreciated enough, and obviously because they fired him. So yeah, like it It is a very odd and peculiar situation. I don't think it's one that's impossible, that can't work at all. But I don't see how you could have anything other than you can have hope, right? You can have hope if that's your team and that's what you root for. But how you have anything other than skepticism, I can't see it.
That's Brandon K. Scott of the B Block podcast. I'll type in the chat. Yep.
Real quick, let me shout out my cousin K. I see my cousin K is in the comment section. I don't know how if she must follow you, but Helen K. Graham. Hey, K.
Is that your cousin?
That's my cousin. Yeah, K is my cousin. My blood family. So, hey, K.
Okay.
I see you.
Look at you bringing people to Chalk Talk. I appreciate you.
She might already be a fan. I didn't put this on Facebook or anything. I just looked up and saw my cousin in there saying, hey, all right, Brandon. I said, well, all right, K. Hey, cuz, good to see you.
So I'm glad that you said that. So what I have to do a better job of is reminding those of you who tune in to share whatever platform you're watching this on, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. If you will share this broadcast again and post it in any group pages that you are a part of and stories. But I also want you guys to go and subscribe to my YouTube page. Eventually, I'm going to move the show there, but I'm not going to leave y'all just yet, right? We gotta gradually do it because I have thousands of people on Facebook. But if you will go and subscribe to Chalk Talk with Kim Davis on YouTube, I'd appreciate it, and tell your friends to subscribe to it. How about that?
For sure.
All right, Brandon Scott, thank you as always. We will keep our ears to the street to see what's going to happen with these Texans in terms of a head coach. When we know, you'll know, and we'll have to get Brandon to come back. I'll have to get him some more popcorn, but I think he'll come back anyway. As always, Brandon, I appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon, my friend.
Always a pleasure, Kim. Thanks for having me again.
All right, Brandon Scott. Hey, you guys follow Brandon on Twitter. You can also go and follow his podcast. It is B_block_podcast on Twitter. We got to support it. It's good stuff. It's good work, and we need more people to hear what he's talking about. Listen, thank you guys for being a part of the show. Make it a great, great week. Follow me on whatever platform you're catching me now, or whatever updates that happen. I'll be sure and bring them to you. And remember, if you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you're not boosted, if you are vaccinated, get the booster. Wash your hands, y'all. Wash y'all's hands. Practice social distancing. And remember, do something kind for somebody else and something kind for yourself. Make it a great, great week. I'll see you next time.